Hello friends, I'm Robin Feicht at Stamping Country. Welcome to my stamping studio. Today we're going to make this cute little card with 3 different stamping techniques or card making techniques. The first one is the Eclipse technique, which gives definition to our letters. And then the second is the Joyful technique, and then the Hinged stamping technique. You're going to love all 3, and together they make this adorable little card that I made for a snow day. We're going to start with a piece of Whisper White cardstock. It's the thick Whisper White cardstock, which I appreciate because it's so much sturdier than the regular Whisper White. And we're going to cut that 8 inches by 4 1/4 inches and score at 5 1/2 inches. You're also going to need a piece of Highland Heather cardstock, and that's cut 8 1/2 by 3 1/4 inches and scored at 4 1/4 inches. You'll also need some extra Highland Heather and Whisper White cardstock, and that's going to be for cutting out the extra letters and for the little stitched rectangles. We're going to start by stamping our little snowman, and this is the Snowman Season stamp set from the Holiday Catalog. It carried over, it's still available. We're going to use this little dancing snowman. We'll ink this up with Tuxedo Black Ink. And we have our little snowman, and then we'll color him. You're going to need 3 colors: Pool Party, Pumpkin Pie, Highland Heather, and Flirty Flamingo. So the carrot, of course, is Pumpkin Pie, Flirty Flamingo for the cheeks, and the Highland Heather, or I guess that's great, gorgeous grape for the buttons. And then I'm going to use the Pool Party to just give little shadows to the snow. Now there's 3 different die sets that we're using, and one of them is from the Handmade for You. It's on page 20. It's called the Sweetly Stitched dies, and that's going to be for the 2 scallop stitched rectangles that we're using on today's card. And then we're using 2 more die sets, and they're both from the big catalogs. One is on page 193, and it's the hand-lettered Prose dies, and I'm using those for the letters that we're doing the Eclipse technique with. And then if you flip over a couple pages, there we go, to page 197, you'll find the well-written dies, and I'm using those for the inside where I said, "Hooray!" exclamation point. Okay, now that we've colored our snowman, we're going to cut out the little rectangle and also the word joy. You'll notice the O, it goes right over the snowman. And then the first and the last letter, the J and the Y, are just going to be on each end. Line that up and cut that out with your die cutting machine. And when you press those out, you want to save the 2 images that have the little snowman. We're going to use those, but you can discard the white with the Y and the J. We're just going to make those Highland Heather. Now you're going to need about 4 or 5 layers for your letters, and I've cut my letters 4 or 5 layers from the Highland Heather cardstock, and then we're going to simply glue those together in a stack. So you can see I've cut my letters. And the only difference between the Highland Heather and the little snowman in the center is that we're going to put that stamped image on the very top layer of our O. So you just keep stacking those. It gives some dimension, sort of a 3D effect for your letters. And it's super fun, especially when you have a little bit of stamping on. This is called the Eclipse technique. I'm going to do that for both the outside and the inside of the circle. And then for my J and Y, again, I'm going to stack 4 or 5 layers. This time it's just going to be all Highland Heather cardstock. We'll stack those up. Cute, cute. Now I want the the little space in the J and the Y to show up. So I'm going to place a piece of Whisper White cardstock behind my cutout. We'll just glue that on. That's so we have a little contrast where the little hole is in the Y and the J. And we're simply going to glue these stacked letters on. This is really a fairly simple technique. It just takes just a little bit of patience. Terrific. And then for the outside of our O, we're going to do that the same way. Ooh, oopsie. And then we want the cheeks going up. Yes. Okay, that's better. And then for the inside, we're going to stack that up with a couple of the mini Stampin' dimensionals so that it's actually a little higher than the outside of the O. Super fun. He's dancing. This is how I feel when a snow day is announced. Working at the school gives you a whole new perspective on snow days. Okay, now to make the joyful card part, we're going to notice that I'm folding. It's going to open what seems like backwards. This is the opposite way that we usually open our cards. So our second or our top card is going to open the opposite way. And we'll put our little panel that we just made on the front, which looks like the back, but I'll show you in a minute. It really is the front. And you remember the Stitch Sweetly dies. That's what I cut the rectangle with. And I'm going to use a second one, and we'll cut the inside panel and the word hooray and the exclamation point from the well written dies. We'll place that on the inside. Okay, now we're going to attach it to our card. Although we're going to do a little stamping first. And that will involve the hinge stamping technique. So let's zoom in here a little. We're going to use our Stamparatus for this technique, which is a stamp positioning tool. I like to use that bottom corner. So I line it up with my grid. This is a gridded mat that I like to use, especially when I use photopolymer stamps. I'm going to use Pool Party ink. And then from the Snowman Season stamp set, I'm going to stamp Let It Snow. We'll place that in the hinges. Yep. We're going to stamp that along the left side of the card. You're going to love this technique. It's super easy, super quick, and it looks really cool. You don't have to stress about lining things up once you get that first one. So Let It Snow. Now we're going to simply pop this out and move it down one hinge. Ink it up again. Stamp. Terrific. No stressing about lining up. And you guessed it, we're going to move it down one more hinge. We'll ink it up. Stamp. One more time. Move it down for the final time and ink it up. And stamp. Super easy. And you've just designed, it looks like designer paper that says let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. We're going to do a little freehand stamping on the inside. It's going to have a little bit of the look of designer paper. We're going to randomly stamp the snowflakes from the Snowman Season stamp set. Again, I'm using Pool Party ink. Notice how I'm twisting and turning so my snowflakes aren't all going the same direction. You really only need to stamp around the edges. The center's all going to be covered with your other card. But this will be peeking out. Gives it a good finished look. We're almost done. Okay, now for the final part of to make our joy fold. We're going to take our backwards card and attach it to the card that is going the correct way, the one we just stamped. And ta-da! We have the joy fold. I love the way this opens. It's fun. You get your little hooray. Thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, and if you haven't already, subscribe. If you'd like to find more paper crafts, be sure to visit my blog at www.stampingcountry.com, and I will leave a list of supplies in the description below.